welcome to Straight Out of BS podcast. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. I really appreciate it. Please continue to share the video, like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you're not already. It really helps the algorithm and gets these stories heard by more people, and thus more awareness spread, and less of these kids going to these places, and less parents making the decision to send their kids to these places because they'll be better educated with podcasts like these. So thank you for that. I want to do thank you to my Patreon members and anybody that's joined the channel and supported me financially. It's never expected. It's always appreciated. Links are in the description. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Hi, my name's Amber Halsey. I attended Midwest Academy in 2006, and I left around October of 2008.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
I was 13 when I was sent there, and then left when I just turned 16, I believe.
Okay. And walk us through your childhood and what led up to you being sent away.
So actually I had a pretty decent childhood. Grew up in a family that, we went to church, was involved in a lot of activities. I was a straight A student up until maybe about the time I turned 13. But the reason why I really got sent to Midwest was due to bad grades. Kind of had a downfall with not getting along with my mom. They tried to send me to therapy. I just didn't really know what was going on as a kid. But my mom and I butted heads a lot. And she really just couldn't handle it anymore. So they found the option of sending me to Midwest Academy.
Okay. And did you get transported, or walk us through how you got there?
So I actually knew that I was going to be attending Midwest Academy about 6 weeks prior to me going. My parents waited until the end of my 7th grade year, and they told me that I was going to this school to help me, and I thought it was going to be like a Zoe 101 type deal. But I live in Indiana, so the school is located in Iowa, so they drove me there during the day and dropped me off, and that's when hell started.
Okay. What do you remember about when you first got there?
I remember walking in and not knowing what the fuck I was getting into. The outside of the school, looked like a normal school to me, but it was like out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. I remember they led me to this parent waiting room or something up in the front, and I think it was a staff member and 2 upper levels that came out to tell me that they needed me to say my goodbyes to my parents. And I was like, what the fuck? Why do I need to say bye to my parents? And then they told me like they'd see me in a year and I would be out. But other than that, it's a little fuzzy. I do remember my mom crying, and my mom has never really cried in front of me.
Okay. And what happened when you first got there? Did they buddy you up? Did they give you a rule manual? Did they give you anything physical? Did they go over rules with you? What happened when you first got there?
When I first got there, they led me to what was known as intervention, or OSS. And they sat me down. It was white walls, bright lights, camera, and 2 upper levels. I believe it was a level 6 and a level 5. They did my intake. And then they just started going over all these rules about how we couldn't talk. We had 3 days on Hope Buddy to ask questions to get used to the schedule. And then after that, we were on our own. They did make me strip down and take a shower. And then they put me in the gym clothes until I could get my uniform. It was like shorts and a white t-shirt, if I remember. And they asked me if I had any questions. I was like, I mean, like, where the fuck am I? It's like you're just transported in the middle of, like, your whole life's about to change. You don't know when you're that young what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. So how was your program overall? Or hold on, how long after you got there did they give you your first phone call?
So I actually sat on my ass for about a year until I got to level 3. My first phone call, and honestly, this was just like not scheduled. My first phone call was them telling me that my grandmother died. I was level 1 and they brought me to intervention to talk to my parents. They're like, "Oh, your grandma died." And I'm like bawling my eyes out, and they just didn't give a shit. They're like, "You can't go to the funeral." And then I think about 6 months later, in May or June of 2007, I finally had a phone call with my parents. And I just remember my family rep just kind of, she was just staring at me like, "You can't say this. You can't tell them what's going on. You're being manipulated." And it, yeah, it took about a year. And then did you ask how my overall program was?
No, I'm not yeah, I'm gonna get to that. But
Okay.
how long after you got there did they put you through your first seminar? And what was it? Was it orientation or discovery?
My first seminar was orientation, and I believe it was about 6 weeks to 2 months after I got there. I remember I'd been there for a little bit, but I sat on level 1 for a long time.
Okay. Okay. And how was your program overall? Was it easy for you to get points? Was it hard for you to get points? Did you try to get points, but people like would consequence you and like pick on you and whatnot? How was your program overall? Lilith? Lilith?
Uh, so my program overall, let me just say that I did not follow the rules. I didn't buy into the bullshit that they were feeding us about the thinking back now. I remember I did try to get my parents to pull me out a lot, and I got in trouble for it. I sat on lower levels for a long time. I didn't get up to level 4 until probably a year and a half of me being there. And then when I got to upper levels, I constantly created probation for myself because I was so overwhelmed with the responsibilities. It was like they gave you privileges, but they also made you be the bad guy by ripping other people down. And I constantly was self-sabotaging to the point where I didn't give a shit if I sat on my ass until I was 18. I mean, when you're 14 or 15, that's a long time, but when you're there, it becomes, so monotonous that you just are doing the same thing every day. You get comfortable. You really don't care what happens. Like in my experience, I just didn't care what happened to me. I was either going to be there or I was going to get pulled or I was going to get sent away. Um I struggled a lot with having confidence in myself to move up in the program, because I was constantly getting in trouble for going to the bathroom. Um, I was in what they called sick bed a ton. And like what sick bed it was just like you were in an intervention room with those white lights with a dirty ass mattress, and they kept the door open. You could use the bathroom or whatever, but it wasn't good. Um, in the program, when I got up to upper levels, I started losing weight like crazy. And I was vomiting, and they didn't take me very seriously. I told my family rep and filled out a med request to ask them to check into it. They thought I was making everything up and doing it for attention. They made me drink Ensure to try to gain weight. And a year after I got out of Midwest Academy, I found out I have Crohn's disease. So I think it started developing when I was in the program, but I just wasn't taken seriously. And the nurse was always constantly just not giving a shit about us. Lower levels was how I switched families a few times. There was a time that I was there for a year. I was 14 at this time, and I had just been so over everything. I knew I was being manipulated. I knew my parents were being manipulated. I knew this shit wasn't right. I ended up, thinking back to it, I ended up decking a girl in the face. And it took 4 staff members and 2 upper levels to detain me. And I was locked in OSS for a week, I believe. And they made you write this 1,000-word essay to get out on how you're going to be better. And then after that happened, I kind of started, fake it till you make it type shit. And I think that's when I started working towards upper levels, but I constantly created probation and would go back down.
Okay.
The biggest thing I can honestly take back from Midwest was just how deafening the silence was, if that makes sense at all. I still struggle with it to this day. It's like I constantly have to be busy, so I'm not in silence because of my time there. Other than that, it comes and goes, like memories of it, but I do remember I just sat in my shit a lot. I had a few friends that I talked to during talk time. I didn't get along with my family rep at all. We butted heads constantly, and after that document series came out last year, I got my file, and she told my parents a bunch of lies about how I was stubborn and didn't take anything seriously and how I'm lazy, which is not the case as an adult now. But other than that, it was just, I didn't graduate. I got pulled out when I was 16. About, I would say a month before I got pulled, they sent me to this 18-year-old program where we had an offsite. It was like a house or something. And I got privileges being a level 4. I was 16. I was able to go grocery shopping, cook. I decided to wear a uniform during certain times, but I didn't have to be at the school, I guess. And I don't know if I was sent there because I was about to get pulled out or if they knew I didn't give a shit about the program anymore. And no matter what they did, I was not going to work it.
Okay. What level did you end up making it to?
Level 4.
Okay. So you were junior staff? Upper levels? Okay. Yeah. Do you feel guilty about consequenting people? Did you consequence people? Did you get in trouble for not consequenting people? Like, do you have guilt about that at all?
I do. I actually remember a bunk buddy of mine. I would constantly pick at her because I was trying to please people. And now looking back at it, it was like, why am I essentially putting someone in trouble for not following rules that are just ridiculous? As an upper level, I think I was pretty well. I picked a lot. Like I was a perfectionist. I am a perfectionist to this day still. I do feel guilty. I am not a fan of putting people down and making people feel like crap because they didn't look in line structure or they looked out of line structure or didn't pivot or they forgot their fucking water bottle. Like, or going to the bathroom, nonverbal communication. Like, okay, you smiled at somebody, so you here's a cat too, you lose 25 points. You know, when you can only get up to what? I think it was 18 points a day or something, 18
Yes.
or 24. I don't remember. But yeah, I do feel guilty about it.
Okay. Did you feel like you had to consequence people to show up for the staff members? And do you feel like that was part of the program? Like, do you feel like you had to do that? Did you feel obligated to consequence people?
Yes. I felt like if I didn't give or recommend consequences, I felt like I was going to be in trouble from staff, or I was going to be reamed. I do remember getting a lot of negative feedback from staff that I wasn't doing enough.
Did you get consequence? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Did you get consequenced by staff for not consequenting people enough? Or was it just a negative feedback?
It was a little bit of both. I do remember getting consequences for not doing enough. I remember getting consequences for not signing this book or being out of area when I said I was going to be somewhere, you know. Like, we're in a locked facility. Like, why the fuck do I need to have another person with me to go vacuum a room? Like, we can't escape, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember that.
Were you that kind of person to call people out and consequence people when on the outside, or did the program kind of make you into that?
I think the program made me not put up with bullshit. Right now, I tend to call people out on their crap, especially if they're friends or family. And I think a lot of that happened when we were at the program. Like, I don't know if you remember like the group sessions, and you would tell people and you'd stand up and like tell people how you're feeling, and then they'd give you the feedback, and then people would snap their fingers if they agreed or not. And it was just like, you're there sharing your feelings, and then these people are telling you that you're wrong, or you're sitting and you're not being accountable for actions for how you feel. And I remember being a little too direct with a few people, and now I feel like I'm 32 now, and I feel like in my younger 20s, I felt like I was way too blunt and I didn't give a shit about people's feelings because I was so used to hurting people in the program. And now I feel like I'm a little more I'm a lot nicer about how I say things. I know how to word things without making people feel like crap. But I definitely feel like I'm blunt because of that place.
Okay. Um, what are three of the stupidest consequences you got, and what were they for?
Oh my God. Oh, thinking back at that. Sorry.
You're good.
What was it? What was using the bathroom? A 205 or a 209? No, 209 was out of when it was a cat too for using the fucking bathroom. When I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Crohn's is, but Crohn's, you literally can't hold it in. If you have to go, you have to go. That was a stupid one. We had a staff member, and if anybody from Midwest Academy remembers this lady, she would purposely look at our hairbrushes and give us consequences. And I don't remember if it was an unsat effort or I think it was an unsat effort. I don't remember. I know it was a cat one. But she'd just sit there and nitpick and count hairs. And then she would write out her consequences per day. And I just remember wanting to like scream at her in her face, but I didn't want to get in trouble. That was another one. And then my family rep gave me she gave me a BRV, the blatant rule violation, the good old 309. Was 305, 309 one of those two?
305, 304, 304, 305, something like that.
Yeah, she gave me one of those for helping somebody when I wasn't supposed to be helping somebody, and it dropped me, put me on probation for, I don't remember if we were on probation for so long we got dropped or we constantly created probation, but she did that and then it put me on probation, but she knew I liked the lower levels because I didn't have to take responsibility for anything. So what she ended up doing was putting me back on upper levels, but I did not have any I didn't have any privileges. I got to wear like our little red tie, but I couldn't wear makeup. I couldn't wear my hair down. She didn't let me staff focus because I was on upper level probation as an upper level, but having no privileges. She wouldn't let me watch movies either. She was, I don't even want to say the word. She was just mean.
Okay.
But yeah.
Lilith, hold on a second. I gotta get.
You're fine.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So what was their policy on runners? What did they say what would happen if you ran? And was there anybody that tried to run when you were there?
I do remember a couple people attempting to run. I do remember there was a male on the boys' side, and I think he either got sent to a wilderness camp or they threatened us with Tranquility Bay. That was always a big one. TB in Jamaica. You know, people didn't listen. When I was outside for gym, I don't remember anybody attempting to run, but I heard rumors that people tried. But personally, anybody that I know,
Okay.
But if you were high risk, they would have a double escort, meaning they would have like the two people link with your arms, and it's ridiculous.
Okay. And excuse me. Let's see. Oh yeah, did you stop any seminars when you were there? Did you have to stop any seminars?
I was gonna staff focus the one time, but as I was saying earlier, my family rep told me I could not, so I didn't get the chance to.
Okay. And how many seminars did you make it through?
I made it all the way to PC 2 or PC 3. They had it in Atlanta. I remember going down there with the one guy, I think his name's David Gilcrease. I think that's his name.
Yep.
Yeah, he staffed it, or he was the staff. He was the guy that led the seminar.
Facilitator?
And yeah, the facilitator. Sorry, my brain. This is
You're
so
fine.
far back in my brain.
You're fine.
Where we had to make the list of like our friends, and we had to put grades with them and make our, going back home plan. Absolutely ridiculous. But other than that, I think that's the furthest I made it. You were actually supposed to be, if I can recall right, you were supposed to be at level 5 to go to that seminar, but I was level 4 and then my family rep just got tired of dealing with me, so they took me.
Okay. Do you remember what your I am statement and or purpose statement was in focus?
I do not. I found the binder like 7 years ago when I was moving out of my apartment. I was gonna move back to my parents for a little bit, and I found the binder and I read it and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" But I do remember it said, "I am a beautiful something butterfly," and then my purpose statement was something about flying around.
Okay.
That's about as much as I remember.
And what was your stretch?
Oh my God, Whitney Houston. The I Will Always Love You, or whatever that song is.
Yep.
Oh, talk about crazy. That one was wild. I remember they made us like close our eyes and then they put me and put a mirror in my face and made us either sing it or it was sung to us or some shit, but like it was nuts. But
Do you remember the lifeboat process?
yes,
What was your experience about the lifeboat process?
gaslighting to a T. So much manipulation. It was disgusting now that I think about it. Back then it didn't make sense, but after, you know, talking to other survivors and talking to like watching podcasts, you know, reading Reddit threads, totally disgusting. Total manipulation.
Did you get
Uh,
did you get did you get voted to live, or did you get killed on the
I got killed. Yeah.
I got Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I got a bunch of lifeboats, and then they're like, since you have all these lifeboats, go ahead and give us 5 minutes of why you deserve to live over everybody else. And knowing damn well that you can't really go for, I mean, I guess maybe somebody could go for 5 minutes if they really had it like down what the fuck they're like, why they are a good person. But I went for like 30 seconds and I was like, I don't fucking know. I didn't say fucking, but I was like, I don't know. And then I just broke down. I was like, I guess I fucking deserve to die then. I guess you're right. I guess I deserve to die. I guess I'm
Yeah.
not worth it.
Yeah. And now, like looking back at it, it's disgusting. Like, why would they make a teenager who's being basically mentally abused? Like, why would you expect someone who doesn't like we haven't had contact with the outside world in months, years, you know, it's years for some people. Like, how are we supposed to know why we deserve and they don't deserve to live, you know?
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Not totally. What was your experience about PC1 when you first saw your parents? Did your parents do the seminars? Did they go to the seminars with you?
Oh yes. My parents they were so conned into the seminars. My dad used to write fours on his little emails to me, and it just makes me cringe now that I think about it. Seeing my parents after the first time, I didn't cry. I was angry. They were both crying, and I just sat there and I'm like, why are we crying? Why did you send me here? You know, I was, it was just I just stared at him. I had nothing to say except, you know, like, what the fuck? Um, I felt like a deep burning, like, not hatred, but just I felt very it's not passion, it was more like just anger at seeing them. Like, I just felt so fake.
I can
Um,
relate.
yeah, like, my mom and I have never gotten along, we still don't get along to this day, and she was just sitting there bawling her eyes out. I'm like, "Why are you bawling your eyes out? You've never been around. You've been around for bits and pieces, and yeah, I think my mom's a decent person, I just don't think she was a good parent." And I just felt like she was just so conned into it. My dad was even bawling. My dad and I have always been close, but seeing him cry, that broke my heart. Seeing my mom cry, I honestly at that time I could care less because I still wasn't a big fan of her. But I just definitely felt that anger and hatred.
Did your parents both decide to send you there, or was it one person's decision?
This is a question I just actually found the answer out to within probably the last 6 weeks. So my dad did not want to send me there. My dad wanted me to just get therapy. My mom is the one that couldn't handle me anymore and she didn't want me in her house. Just to give you a little preface, I'm an only child, so I was my parents' only, the only person they had to raise. And being as stubborn and as mouthy as I can be, still to this day, I can see why my mom didn't want to deal with it. I have a daughter of my own. I have 2 daughters, actually. And I get a little lick backs of my oldest. So I can only imagine what she's going to be like as a teenager. But I think my mom just wanted peace. She grew up in a chaotic household and not a good family. And she expected me to learn how to be a child without her teaching me how to grow up and do things. So it was mostly my mom.
Okay. And did you get a commitment letter? Did you get sent a commitment letter? And then did you have to write a confession letter?
They sent me a commitment letter. I'm not going to lie, I laughed because this wasn't the people that I knew growing up. And as for a confession letter, they tried to get me to write a confession letter, but I just did not do it. Like, I really didn't do anything bad outside of, like, I played Sims a lot on the internet, on dial-up internet. Sims 2, that was my shit. And, I was addicted to that, and my parents were tired of that, and then I got some bad grades. Didn't listen to them as normal teenagers do. Other than that, I never snuck out. I never tried to smoke weed in their home. I never had, relationship. I had extracurricular activities. I went to church. I wasn't really a bad kid. So I don't really remember having anything to confess to. Later down the line, after meeting my family rep, I do remember she was trying to guilt trip me into confess that I did this, this, and this. And it was like, I never did this. I don't remember. And she was like, oh, don't you remember that time that you were speaking to a stranger online and you almost met up with them? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? In what land of Delulu are you living? Like, I never did that. Absolute crazy. But yeah, I did. The commitment letter made me fucking laugh.
Okay. Were you ever forced to admit to anything that you hadn't done before, or did you feel like you were obligated to do that in a seminar or small group or in the program in general in order to persevere and get farther?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like admitting to saying I had slept with men when I was 13 years old that I had never knew anything about. I didn't even know what a damn penis was, honestly, and how it worked until I was like 17. Like, cool. Sorry for the bluntness, but
Oh, it's fine.
admitting to like doing things like I would hit my parents, I abused my parents, I gaslit my parents, like I was verbally insulting to my mom, which I don't recall doing. I mean, I had my moments when I would call her, a bitch or, the C word or, stuff like that. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was a teenager and I had big feelings. I didn't know how to regulate them. My family rep blamed me for my grandma dying. My grandmother died of lung cancer because she was a chain smoker. And she told me that my grandmother took her last breath because she was disappointed in me. They accused me of fondling myself in the classroom and telling myself I had to do that. And then they were wondering if I was a virgin. So the nurse and another staff member took me aside and she sexually assaulted me.
Okay.
I was 14 at the time.
Okay. Did you feel like you were obligated to cry? And if you didn't, then people wouldn't believe? you?
Yeah, I felt like I had to put on a face there. I felt like I had to cry, but I really did not cry that much until I knew I was starting to piece things together. Like, this is not okay. I felt like I had to fake a lot of tears in seminars to get by. Otherwise, they were going to choose you out.
Okay. Did you ever get chosen out for not crying or for not showing up enough?
Yes, in Discovery. Jan, I think it was her name, Jan or Jane or something.
Miss Jan. Miss Jan.
Miss Jan, yeah. I don't even feel like calling her Miss. She's just anybody that did that now. She called me out for not showing up. And I was like, how am I supposed to show up in this seminar? What does that mean? I don't know what showing up means. I was 14 at the time. My parents sheltered me my entire life, so I didn't do bad things. I don't know what showing up means. You want me to stand here and do like juggle or something? Does that mean showing up? She just outed me, and then they like escorted me back to my family. I was like, what the fuck just happened? I don't know what's going on. But other than that, I know a lot of people chose out of focus.
Yeah.
Chosen out of focus, but I made it through focus. Then I had principles, and then PC3. But yeah, Discovery. That was intense.
Okay. What was your experience about the release process? Do you remember doing that in Discovery and Focus, or just one or the other? I remember doing it in both. I remember Focus being longer, personally, than Discovery, but
I remember Focus more than I remember Discovery with the release process. I mean, it felt good to get all that anger out that I was feeling. But looking back now it was weird. Like I was just hitting the floor with that duct tape towel. I ended up getting like knuckle bruises. I think I ended up scratching my face too in the process. Um, at the time it felt good, but I didn't know what to be angry about. And I was angry at my parents for sending me there, but I was angry about my grandma dying and me not being able to attend her funeral. Other than that, I just felt like it was just the weirdest thing. Like, what are we supposed to hit? Hit the wall, yell, scream. And then I think there was a part in one of the seminars where we had to act like a baby.
yeah, crawl around on the floor.
Like what?
Yeah.
Like how's like what are you? That's so gross. Like we're growing up to be adults, not to go back to that. That I remember, and then I remember the Odyssey music playing. I can't watch or listen to it anymore without getting PTSD triggers. But
I feel that. Do you remember feeling like a high after you got out of the seminar?
yeah,
Okay.
I felt like I was on cloud nine.
Yeah.
I'm 420 friendly,
Yeah.
and I recall the feelings of euphoria. Like when you first feel like you're lifted. I remember feeling good for a few days, and then I just kind of felt like, oh, we're back to the same old bullshit.
Yeah.
It really happened. But yeah, I do remember, especially in the process where they would like lift you up in the air. I don't remember if that was Focus or Discovery, but
That was Focus, where I'm ready to fly, and then you fall back.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. That's when I felt it after that. But did you I felt like they were gonna drop me. Personally, I felt like they were gonna pick me up and drop me. I was scared. Other
Yeah.
than that, crazy time.
Okay, that sexually being sexually abused, was that the only time that happened? And also, did you experience or notice any grooming going on between student and staff? And then was there any other sexual assault towards like student on student, staff on student? Any other stuff like that?
That was the only time that happened to me. I did notice a lot of grooming between one of the administrators and a few of the students.
Like what?
He was just very flirtatious. And
or just word?
Just his whole vibe. Like, he would stand there and stick out his stomach, like, look at me kind of deal. Or there was a TA, a teacher assistant, that would come up and talk to me all the time. I do remember this now. His name, I don't want to say his name, but it was even in one of the files. Like, he would just stare at me and just try to make conversation, but I feel like he was it was just really weird. And staff was assuming that I had this relationship going on with him because he would approach me. And I was just trying to be polite. I didn't want to get in trouble. As for student on student, I've heard rumors. I never really saw anything. I didn't pay attention. I was too hyper focused on trying to get the fuck out of there.
Okay.
And when the allegations of Ben came up, I kind of figured it was happening, almost 10 years after leaving, but I can only imagine what happened behind closed doors.
Okay. Were you there when Ben was there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did he give you weird vibes? Did he come off weird to you? Did he give you any?
He put on a good picture of being a good man. Like, he was trying to help. It was, he had his wife, and I believe he had 2 kids at that time, or he had his one youngest, or his oldest. I can't recall the name of him. But Ben, during holidays would fix us pancakes, and we'd be able to go watch fireworks. One year, they'd actually let us be normal. And I never really saw him yell at anybody, or, he never gave me that weird vibe until after I got out and I was reading the reports and everything, court documents and stuff of what had happened. I'm like, oh my God, yeah. I've heard things from other students or other survivors that were there too. But I never really chatted with him one-on-one.
Okay.
In the program. He wasn't my family rep. The other administrator named Jared, he was the one that he just gave me the weird vibe. Like, he, even now, he got divorced and married he's got to be in his 50s, like, at least older. And he married someone who's significantly younger than him, younger than me, at least.
Yeah.
And there was people saying, like, he would message them after the program on Facebook telling them how sexy they are. So I can only imagine what was going on while we were there.
Okay. And did you hear about or know of anybody just disappearing from the program and never being heard from again? Like, not being I guess they could have been transferred, but like, did you notice anybody just disappearing from the facility?
There was one girl. I don't know what happened to her. We were like I was in this family, Serenity was the name, and we were in a group session, and all of a sudden there's like just someone that flew out the hallway, and they like dropped themselves off the stairwell. And I think she hit her head, and I never knew what the fuck happened to her. They weren't letting us talk about it, but every time we would go upstairs, we'd have to pass by the blood stain. It was really weird.
So they took her out away from the facility, and you just never found out what happened? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if she cracked her head or she broke her neck or what, but I never heard back from her. I was an upper level at this time. And I remember just seeing people like going back because we had like at Midwest, we had like 2 stairwells, right? This was the back stairwell that led to, the dorms and stuff. And then the other one would lead up to like where the upper levels would hang out, called the Copa or whatever we called it then. And this was back towards the back stairwell, and she just like flew out. I knew she was a new student at that time. She just jumped over, and it had to be at least 2 stories high. But yeah, we never heard from her again. Yeah, it was crazy. Other than that, I don't really recall. I know some people got sent to wilderness camps, but they would come back. But that was just the one time I really remember anybody just leaving.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. I was like smelling, I guess somebody burned something because I was like smelling something burning. So like not, I'm hoping that it's not a fucking fire, but yeah, so I just went to check, but I think somebody burnt some toast or something. It smells like burnt toast. But anyways, I want to make sure. Yeah, I want to make sure my building wasn't on fire. But yeah, how are you about to burn? Well, I guess it's easy to burn toast with a toaster. So
Yeah, it is. Do it all the time.
so what happened after you like what happened with you going home? And then did any of your credits for school transfer?
Okay, yeah, so I got pulled on a Friday. It was an off grounds. Then my parents came and they were like, okay, we're gonna pull you out. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went and, said my goodbyes to shit. Coming home was crazy. It was an 8-hour drive from where Midwest is to where I lived. And I actually started school 2 days later. We started where I went to high school, we had quarters. So I was in my second quarter in October. And when I got my transfer credits, all my credits to transfer, I came back as a junior. And my class that I was supposed to graduate with were all sophomores. So I graduated a year early, actually. But yeah, it was weird. It took me a long time to get adjusted to things. Luckily, I still had my friends who I had before, and they were very helpful. I remember when I came back to school, they were all lined up in the guidance counselor's office waiting for me. My best friend at the time cried. It was a lot. But yeah, getting back into classes in a normal school setting after being on the switched on schoolhouse bullshit, I failed in high school. I failed a lot of my classes. I was surprised I even graduated when I did.
Okay.
And my school was on a little bit of a different scale. Like, I think a 70% was a D, when normally it's a C. And yeah, it was definitely crazy. I don't remember. I didn't retain any information from that school, whatever that switch on schoolhouse is. It's a crock of shit.
Yeah. Did they try and push a life contract on you before you went home?
Yes and no. They recommended it, but my parents and I didn't follow it.
Okay, so you wrote one up, but you didn't follow it. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, like we had made one about when I could start dating, who my friends could be, that kind of thing, who I could associate with. But when I got home, I was so, I don't even know the word for it. It was literally just, it was hard for me to adjust because I'm going from this big ass space with all these girls to being me and my parents and our 2 dogs at the time. It was quiet. I freaked the fuck out. I didn't know what was happening, They tried to implement rules, and I was just like, what? As soon as I got back, they threatened to send me back. As soon as I came home, they were like, we can just send you back. I'm like, do it. Do it. What else can you do? Like, you obviously knew it didn't work for me, so you threatening me. Either send me to go live with somebody else or just leave me the fuck alone and let me do my thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was hard to get adjusted back into school.
Okay. Did you struggle with any hard drugs after you got out of the program?
No, I was never really exposed to anything. I think I tried pot as soon as I turned 18.
Okay.
And I've only done one hard drug after that, and I was 25. It was like a weekend bender with somebody. But other than that, no, not really.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Actually, I did get addicted to pain pills after, because I had surgery on my colon shortly after the program.
Okay.
And in a lot of pain, and I got addicted to Vicodin for a while and kept asking the surgeon in my primary to, give me pills, and couldn't find relief, so I was buying pills from people.
Okay.
That was hard. It's hard now. I mean, I'm still struggling with Crohn's disease, and I've had one other surgery. I had the same surgery, 10 years later. And I asked them not to give me any opioids. I mean, in the hospital, yeah, you're recovering, but when I got home, I didn't want anything like that.
Okay.
And still the same. I broke my wrist actually 2 weeks ago in a car accident, and they prescribed me some, and I just said no. I don't. Just gonna deal with the pain.
Yeah. Any self-harm or suicide attempts after you got out of the program?
Yes. I've had two major ones. My first one was when I was 27. No, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think. It was shortly after my daughter was born. I got PPD, really bad postpartum depression.
Okay.
I overdosed on some anxiety meds.
Xanax?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to put my stomach, and I got escorted out by police, handcuffed in the front. They sent me to the hospital.
5150?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I got sent here where I live now for 4 days, and we got my meds changed around. And we did a group session, and I talked to a different psychiatrist who thought I needed to be there longer, but my group counselor said I was just overwhelmed with being a parent. I'm a single parent, and not having a good support system and going through all that alone is hard. And then I don't want to cry.
Totally fine if you do.
3 weeks later, after all that happened, we found out some of the meds I was taking were not working. So I had increased suicidal thoughts, especially ideations. I didn't want to go through with them, but the way I was talking, it concerned my daughter's dad, and so he called it in, and I'm glad he did. Now, I was pissed at him at the time, but I had bought a gun earlier in the year and lied to them and told them I didn't have a weapon. And when you get discharged from, any kind of inpatient, they always ask you, do you have any weapons that you can harm yourself with? I lied and told them I didn't. I did. And yeah, they caught me with a weapon the second time around. And then I Went in for, about a week. They changed my meds. I talked to another psychiatrist who diagnosed me with PMDD, PTSD, and major depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety as well. And we found out with the PMDD, with the postpartum, really heightens your emotions. And then I've been in therapy on and off for the past this happened 5 years ago. So after that, I had another daughter. But 3 years after, my inpatient, my 2 states were being inpatient, and I didn't have any, suicidal thoughts after that. I knew I had a purpose now because I'm a good mom. I was doing well. I'm not in the best place right now, but I'm not, where I was.
That's good.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part about being in the program, and how did you deal with it?
The hardest part for me being in the program was being isolated from my friends and being isolated from my dad and my pets. I really hung on to the good times with them. I remember my friends and I doing, the dumbest shit as kids, and laughing, and all the nicknames that we made for people and we made for ourselves. And I think I clung on to those, and I think that's what really pushed me to stay alive. There was a time when I was in the program that I did try to harm myself. I scratched my wrist, and they gave me a Cat 5 self-mutilation or something like that, which, you lose all your points and you starting all over. And I was on Life Buddy for a hot minute, where they made you sleep in the middle of the room, and put me on a run risk, even though I wasn't going to run anywhere. I didn't know where is Iowa, and there's nothing in Iowa to run to. But yeah, just the hope of seeing my friends again is really what pushed me to just try to do better.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a Cat 5 for self-infliction a couple of times, at least twice. I broke off a piece of metal on, there was like this metal connector piece to like the lanyards that we had, and I broke it off, and then I like filed it back and forth and like sharpened it, and then I cut all down my arm. I cut super deep on my arm, like all the way down my arm, and it was like super deep, and I fucking I did it at night, and I fucking they found out the next morning, and they threw me an intervention, but Cat 5.
I'm sorry that
I was in there for like 3 days, but yeah,
yeah.
So I can relate. What have you struggled with the most as a result of the program?
Oh, this could go on for a couple minutes. Trusting people. To this day, I don't think I believe anything anybody ever says to me without actions being proved. Anxiety. Anxiety is probably my biggest one. I'm constantly calling people to make sure that they're, that they're on their way, or, like they're going to do what they said they were going to follow through with it, Forming relationships is my big one. I haven't been in a stable relationship since I've left the program. I've had boyfriends, I've had relationships, but even my friendships, I feel like things are going so good, and then I will immediately start putting a guard up, and then I immediately shut down because I feel like they're going to leave. like my parents left me. Within the last year, I got diagnosed with ADHD as well. So it's hard for me to stay focused on one thing without, going, basically having the zoomies as an adult,
Yeah.
I struggled hardcore with keeping focus. I went back to school after my youngest was born and I graduated, and now I'm working towards getting a law degree. And really just staying motivated and also self-confidence. That's also another big one. I don't see myself as what other people think that they see me as. They see me as someone who's intelligent and helpful and, a good mom. I see the good mom, but I don't see myself as intelligent or helpful or, I still see myself as what my parents described me as a spoiled brat. Like I'm not good enough to help others.
Okay.
And then just family. Like I don't talk to my family at all except my parents. I barely speak to my mom. I only have my dad. Like, yeah, we're cool at social events, but nobody asked about how the program was. So I just stopped coming around. I felt like, you guys didn't care enough about me now. Then, like, are you gonna really care about me now?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then yeah, it's really just the trust and the anxiety.
Okay. If you could go back in a time machine knowing what you know now and not go through Midwest Academy, would you do it and why?
Yes, I would go back, and if I was talking to my 13-year-old self, I would say, your feelings matter. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be held and have a mother who cared about you enough to teach you things, how to regulate your emotions. I had to go back in time and say that this isn't your fault. Your parents were conned and lied to. And I'd really just give my younger self a hug and say, you didn't deserve this. Like, none of us deserve that. Anybody who's gone through these schools never deserved to, be essentially abandoned by family, cut off from the world for Litchfields, or, my instance, it was Litchfield. I was with a, W.W.A.S.P school, so none of us deserve that.
Yeah. What do you think would have helped you instead of being sent away?
I think about this often, and I think if my parents would have given up guardianship of me to another family member who had more patience. I think that probably would have helped immensely, and then maybe going through family counseling and having someone call my mom out on her bullshit, I think would have helped instead of blaming me for all the issues. I don't think Midwest was the answer. I mean, yeah, I definitely needed a kick in the ass, but not that hard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want people to know about your experience, or anything that you might tell a parent thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
If a parent is thinking about sending their kid to a troubled teen industry school, please research all your options. There are so many more options out there than literally giving your kid to strangers for them to be manipulated and abused. There is help outside of what they consider the the rehabilitative schools. There are so many more options in that, you know, you can do more than what you did or what you're thinking about doing. I would tell parents also to take a deep look into themselves. You know, your behaviors as a parent often reflect on how your kids are behaving too. It's not your child's fault that they're acting out. It's probably, I mean, it may not be your fault either. It may just be a culmination of things. It's not your, don't send your kids somewhere for somebody to tell them that it's their fault. It's not their fault. We were never the intended. We're not, and I mean this with my whole heart. We are not the problem. The kids are not the problem. We may have done some stupid shit. We may have done, you know, teenagers do dumb shit all the time. I can't tell you how many times I hear about my friends' kids doing some shit that I'm just like, oh goddamn, I would have gotten my ass beat. But there's nothing bad enough in this world as a parent myself to make me want to think about sending my child away to strangers. A trusted family member to help so I could get help. Yeah, I could see that, but nothing like what you and I have experienced or other survivors have experienced.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. If you ever want to do a part 2, platform's always open. For a lot of people, stuff comes up after they do the first one, so just take some notes and then reach out and we'll schedule a part 2. And if anybody's watched this far in the video, please make sure you like the video, comment down below. I'd love to meet you, and if you want to do an interview, then leave a comment down below and we will make that happen. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and share so we can get these places shut down and have no kids go to these places and no more kids abused. So we will catch you on the next one. Peace out, guys. Bye.